Welcome to the Calm Cantina with Mike, and today we're discussing will Grogu become a Jedi? Now, if you guys are new around here in the Calm Cantina, everybody's welcome to their own opinions. We don't all have to love the same content, but at a certain point, we do need to remain calm and not get all crazy up here in the cantina. In the cantina, I guess, let me say. But with that said, let's get into the discussion. So I feel like Disney has been prepping us for Grogu to become a Jedi in more ways than one. In the latest movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, it's heavily hinted. At least I feel like it's heavily hinted that we're going to get adventures with Grogu beyond Din Djarin, beyond the Mandalorian stuff, beyond the Creed. Now, why do I say this? I think it's because heavily, or I guess multiple times in the movie, it stuck out to me that they said, hey, look, you need someone to look after this guy, or he needs to be able to look after himself after you're gone. Speaking to Din Djarin, Rhoda says this, I think at least two times. It was to the point where the moments that he said this in the movie, I was like, you know what? It like, is Din Djarin gonna die in this movie? Because like you've said this two or three times now. And I really just, with him not dying, obviously, in this movie, I think now it just is more like, hey, like we are planning already for Grogu beyond this linear path that we have him with the Mandalorian. And to me, that makes me kind of excited. I would love to see Yoda's species thrown around a lightsaber. Like, if you look back to the clips in Revenge of the Sith, just how ruthless Yoda was, throwing his lightsaber through some of the clones, jumping off to the next one, just like lighting fools up with his lightsaber. Like, you can't tell me that that wouldn't be awesome to see potentially with Grogu because they're, going through the Mandalorian or the Mando verse, there's a whole bunch of remnants still of the Empire. And so that could come back and where he's just kind of slaying stormtroopers with his lightsaber, or maybe just maybe he starts doing it with Din Djarin. Now, I don't know quite how Yoda's species work and where and at what point he's going to start actually speaking, but being 50 years old, I think he was in the first season of Mandalorian, it might be a little bit. But he is gaining tons of force abilities. So in The Mandalorian, we do get flashbacks where Kelleran Beck goes and saves him from Order 66. Why would they show us all of this? I guess, and why is this an integral part of the story unless they were going to really do something with it? I know he meets up with Luke and Ahsoka, and they're starting his training, which honestly, something I don't really see many people talk about is where Luke gives him the ultimatum, right? He's like, hey, look, you need to pick your training with Yoda's lightsaber, or you can leave with Din Djarin, and you don't really choose this path. When it's like, Luke of all people, like especially through the original trilogy, was not willing to give up these things, and it led him down the path, and that's where he is. And if they're going to do like the Mara Jade character or however you say it, Mara Jade character, Mara Jade Skywalker, and he has kids, it makes like that scene make a little bit less sense, at least in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if I'm like misreading this, where Luke didn't really give up, he wasn't giving up those personal relationships and everything close to him, unless like I'm misinterpreting this and he was giving up things to like different things. But like that whole thing doesn't make sense. And I guess, Disney Star Wars and the sequels and the botchery of The Last Jedi, that's my opinion. Take or leave Force Awakens, it's okay. But between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, I feel like there was a lot of character assassinations. But that's besides the point, and that's not the point of this video. So, going back to, is Grogu going to be a Jedi? I 100% think Disney would be foolish not to go down this path. It would be cool. It would be awesome. Throwing that mini lightsaber, I'm sure he is going to get Yoda's lightsaber at some point. They like to do the thing where they're passing lightsabers along, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, it's a whole carousel of people who have had this lightsaber. You had Anakin and his lightsaber, then he goes to Luke, and now it's to Rey. Now they're kind of starting the same thing. Yoda had his lightsaber, and now it goes to Grogu. Which, how did he even get this lightsaber? Maybe that was answered somewhere and I just don't know. I'm going to look it up right after recording this, and maybe I'll put a little thing here if I actually figure it out. But that's a whole big mystery because Yoda drops it when he's fighting Palpatine. But it's it would be crazy. But let's point to some more evidence. John Favreau actually did an interview with Games Radar where he said that Grogu is potentially on a path to be both Mandalorian and Jedi. So let's just get into this. So, creatively, I have a lot of plans and I've had a lot of thoughts about these characters, especially for Grogu. Director and co writer and producer John Favreau recently told Games Radar Grogu is a character that is his species lives for centuries. He's on a path to become both a Jedi and a Mandalorian. He's making certain choices and decisions, and he has great teacher for now. Or now. And so, as he develops and grows, there's opportunities for stories that would emulate from that, or emanate from that. I guess I can't read, guys. But anyway, with all of that said, he is basically saying, he's on a path to be a Jedi. Now, look, this could have been, let's see when this is from. This is actually from Monday, May 25th. Okay, so this was recently. Grogu has done I believe it was I forget which series it was in, but he's like meditating on that thing. Grogu has done a lot with the Force. He's been continuing his Force training and becoming one with the Force. And it kind of makes me feel like even if it's not Luke Skywalker that trains him, right? I know Ahsoka took him to Luke and said, "Hey, look, we can train him here." But maybe Ahsoka kind of takes that on. That that makes sense, and you could see maybe Ahsoka and Grogu. I think Ahsoka and Grogu would bring in more to the movie theaters than The Mandalorian and Grogu because you're seeing, they'll have the budget to do all of the CGI and all of that. You'd have Grogu hopping around, throwing his lightsaber through people. You'd have, Ahsoka, maybe a little bit better choreography, and you'd have Rosario Dawson going to the big screen. I personally think that would be more of a draw if they did some sort of adventure there. And maybe now, even with the Maul series where they've kind of set up Darth Talon, maybe it's Ahsoka and Grogu going to take on Darth Talon. I personally think that would be an interesting movie. And I think that would be a huge draw for people to get out and go to the theater for Star Wars again. And I think that's something they could do within the next 3, 4 years after Jedi Starfighter. I am down for that. I just thought of that on the spot. What do you guys think? Is that something that you would be interested in? Is that something that you think is even worth entertaining for Disney? Do you think it's something they would do? Probably not, but they have set it up. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. It greatly helps the channel, and hit that subscribe button as we go to reach our goals. Outside of that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and have fun in the Calm Cantina.